The danger around the camp grew stronger each day. Mark knew they could not face it alone. They needed help, people who believed in their cause, who would fight for Lyra and the child. One morning, a small group arrived at the camp. They were a mix of humans and aliens, strangers to Mark, but familiar faces to Lyra. These were outcasts, rebels who had escaped from other planets, hunted for their beliefs or their differences. Their leader, a tall human named Zara, stepped forward. "We've heard about Lyra and the child," she said. "We want to help." Mark studied Zara carefully. There was fire in her eyes, a fierce desire for justice. He nodded slowly. "We need allies," he said, "but can we trust you?" Zara smiled. "Trust is earned. We're ready to fight with you." Over the next days, the camp buzzed with new energy. The rebels brought weapons, knowledge, and hope. They taught Mark, and the team new ways to defend themselves. They shared stories of resistance and survival. Lyra watched the newcomers with cautious hope. She could sense their honesty and strength. Slowly, she began to trust them. One evening, Zara pulled Mark aside. "The enemy is planning a bigger attack," she warned. "They want to capture the child and use its power." Mark's jaw tightened. "We won't let that happen." Together, they planned a strategy. They would protect the camp with all their might. But more than weapons, they needed unity. Humans and aliens standing side by side. Mark thought about Lyra and the child growing inside her. This family was more than blood. It was hope for two worlds. Days passed, and the camp prepared for battle. Training grew harder, defenses stronger. Mark and Lyra grew closer, their bond a steady light in the growing darkness. One night, as the stars shone above, Mark held Lyra's hand. "We're not alone," he said. "We have friends now." Lyra smiled softly. "Together, we are stronger." As the first signs of the enemy's arrival appeared on the horizon, Mark felt ready. Not just because of the weapons or the fighters, but because of the family they had found in each other. They would fight, they would survive, and they would protect the future, one that belonged to all. After Lyra's shocking confession, Alex could not stop thinking about what she had said. The idea that she wished he could be her husband, a human, felt strange and powerful all at once. It was not just a simple feeling. It was a secret that could change everything. Days passed, and Alex noticed that Lyra was more careful around others. She spoke less about her feelings and focused more on her duties as a Viridian diplomat. But whenever they were alone, their connection grew stronger. One evening, while working late in the station's data room, Alex found an encrypted message on his terminal. It was from an unknown sender, but written in a code used only by the Viridian leadership. His curiosity got the better of him, and he carefully opened it. The message was clear but disturbing. The Viridian government was planning to use the growing tensions between humans and Viridians to their advantage. They wanted to push humans off the planet Virilia and take full control of the space station. Alex felt a cold shiver. He knew Lyra was part of that government, but he had never imagined such a plan. The next day, Alex decided to talk to Lyra about what he had learned. He found her near the garden dome, a peaceful place filled with glowing plants and soft light. "Lyra," Alex said quietly, "I found a message. It says your leaders want to push humans away from Virilia." Lyra's face changed. Her green eyes looked sad and troubled. "Yes, it is true. Some in my government believe humans should not stay here." Alex felt anger and sadness mix inside him. "But we live here too. We want peace, not war." Lyra looked down. "I do not agree with them, but I must obey. It is my duty." Alex reached out and took her hand gently. "Then maybe it is time to change the rules. Together." Lyra looked up, hope shining in her eyes again. "I want to believe that, but it will be dangerous." Alex nodded. "Dangerous, yes, but we cannot let fear control us." As they stood in the quiet garden, they made a silent promise to fight for a future where humans and Viridians could live in peace. But deep inside, both knew it would not be easy. Later that night, Alex lay awake thinking about Lyra's words and the secret message. He understood that their bond was not just a personal risk. It was part of a larger struggle between two worlds. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows of the government, others were watching, waiting for a chance to stop them. The first light of dawn painted the sky with soft colors, but there was no peace at the camp. Mark stood beside Lyra, watching the horizon with a heavy heart. The enemy was coming, stronger and more organized than before. The new allies had prepared them well, but Mark knew the battle would be hard. The lives of Lyra, their child, and everyone in the camp depended on their strength and unity. Suddenly, dark shapes appeared in the sky, enemy ships descending fast. Laser beams cut through the air, and the ground trembled beneath the attack. Mark grabbed Lyra's hand. "Stay close," he said, pulling her to safety. The camp erupted into chaos. Fighters shouted orders, weapons fired, and explosions shook the ground. But through it all, Mark kept his focus on Lyra and the glowing device she carried, the key to their survival. The enemy pushed forward, breaking through some defenses. Mark fought fiercely, his heart pounding. He saw the fear in his team's eyes, but also their determination. Lyra stood near the camp's center, her device glowing brighter than ever. As the enemy soldiers approached, the light from the device grew, creating a powerful shield around her. Mark moved to protect her, blocking attacks and pulling her away from danger. They worked together, a perfect team, human and alien united. In the heat of battle, Mark noticed something incredible. Lyra's strength seemed to grow with every moment. Her skin shimmered and her eyes flashed with power. She whispered, "For our child, for our future." Inspired, Mark fought harder. The enemy began to falter against the shield and the united fighters. One by one, they retreated, leaving behind smoke and silence. As the dust settled, Mark knelt beside Lyra. "You were amazing," he said softly. Lyra smiled, exhausted but proud. "We survived. Together." The victory brought hope, but Mark knew this was just the beginning. The enemy would return, stronger and more determined. But now they had something more powerful than weapons or shields, the bond between human and alien, and the promise of their child. Mark looked at Lyra and felt a deep love. No matter what came next, he would stand by her side. They were not just survivors. They were family. And their family would fight for a future where no one would have to hide or run. The camp was tense. After the attack, no one felt safe anymore. Mark could see it in the eyes of his team. Some whispered about leaving the planet. Others wanted to fight back. But Mark had only one thought: protect Lyra. She was still weak, but her spirit was strong. She stayed close to Mark, trusting him more each day. He watched her carefully, learning how her body healed faster than any human's. It was strange, but it gave him hope. One morning, while fixing the communications tower, Mark spotted movement near the tree line. His heart jumped. Enemy scouts were watching them. They were not just looking. They were waiting for a chance. Mark ran back to camp and warned everyone. "They're coming for Lyra," he said. "We have to be ready." The commander nodded grimly. "Prepare the defenses. We protect the camp. And her." Mark helped set up barriers and traps. He worked faster than ever, fueled by fear and determination. Lyra watched quietly but helped too, showing surprising knowledge about the terrain and tactics. That night, the enemy struck again. This time, they were more organized and stronger. Laser beams cut through the dark sky. Explosions shook the ground. Mark fought beside his team, but his eyes searched for Lyra. She stood by the camp's core, holding her glowing device. The light from it pulsed faster, as if warning of danger. Mark moved toward her, dodging debris. Suddenly, an enemy soldier broke through the line and aimed at Lyra. Mark didn't hesitate. He threw himself between them and took the hit. Pain shot through his side, but he stayed standing. Lyra's eyes widened in shock. For the first time, she spoke clearly, her voice strong and urgent. "Mark, run. Protect the device." Mark shook his head, refusing to leave her alone. He knew the device was important, but so was Lyra. They needed each other. The battle raged on, but a strange thing happened. Lyra's device began to glow brighter. A shield of light formed around the camp, pushing the enemy back. Mark felt a wave of relief. After the fight, Mark's wound was cleaned and bandaged. Lyra sat beside him, holding his hand. "Thank you," she whispered softly. Mark smiled weakly. "I won't let anything happen to you." He looked at her and realized something important. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a fight for their future, together. As the camp settled into uneasy quiet, Mark knew one thing: danger lurked. But so did hope. And with Lyra by his side, he was ready for whatever came next. The quiet after the battle was only temporary. Mark stood beside Lyra, looking up at the stars, when suddenly the sky changed. A massive shadow moved across the planet's orbit. A giant enemy fleet unlike anything they had seen before. "This is no ordinary attack," Mark said, his voice tense. "Something bigger is coming." Zara, the rebel leader, joined them. "The enemy that hunted Lyra before was just a part of a larger force," she explained. "They want to control everything, including this child." The truth hit Mark hard. Their fight was not just for survival. It was for the future of many worlds. As the huge ships moved closer, Mark and Lyra gathered their allies. Humans and aliens stood side by side, preparing for a battle that would decide their fate. Lyra held the glowing device tightly. It pulsed with energy, a beacon of hope and power. Mark placed a hand on her shoulder. "We face this together." The enemy fleet attacked with overwhelming force. Lasers and missiles filled the sky. The ground shook as massive machines landed. Mark fought with every ounce of strength, protecting Lyra and their people. But the enemy was relentless, pushing them to the edge. In the heat of battle, Lyra's power grew stronger. The shield from her device expanded, protecting more of the camp and allies. Mark saw their child moving inside Lyra, small but alive. The thought gave him courage. The battle was long and brutal. Many were hurt, but the bond between humans and aliens held strong. In a moment of calm, Mark whispered to Lyra, "Our child is the future. We must protect that hope." Lyra nodded. "Together, we are stronger than fear." With new strength, Mark led a final push against the enemy. Their unity and hope gave them power beyond weapons. The enemy began to retreat, defeated for now. The battle had changed everything. Mark knew the future would be hard, but it was theirs to build. Lyra smiled at Mark, her eyes shining with pride and love. "We are family." And with that family, they would face whatever came next, stronger, united, and ready for a new beginning. After the tense council meeting, things on the station began to change. The leaders agreed to pause all hostilities and start talks for peace. It was a small step, but an important one. Alex felt a new hope rising inside him. He and Lyra met often now, working together to help both humans and Viridians understand each other better. Their secret friendship was no longer so secret, and many on the station began to see Alex not just as an engineer, but as a symbol of hope. One day, Alex was called to a meeting with the Viridian Council. He was nervous but determined. The council was full of stern faces, watching him closely. "Alex," the head of the council said, "you have done something few humans could. You have shown courage and wisdom. You are now an honored guest among us." Alex bowed slightly. "Thank you. I only want peace for all of us." The council nodded, and Alex felt proud. He knew the road ahead was long and difficult. But this was a start. Back on the station, some humans were still suspicious. They did not trust the Viridians or believe peace was possible. Alex understood their fear, but tried to show them a better way. He gave talks, helped solve problems, and even repaired machines that others had given up on. Slowly, the walls of mistrust began to fall. Lyra watched Alex with pride and admiration. She saw how humans could be brave and kind, and how much Alex cared for both their peoples. One evening, as they stood on the observation deck looking at the stars, Lyra said softly, "You have changed more than just this station, Alex. You have changed me." Alex smiled. "And you have changed me. I never thought I could care for someone like you." They stood close, the silence filled with a new kind of connection. But not everyone was happy. Some Viridian leaders still opposed their friendship. Rumors began to spread, and shadows of doubt crept back into the station. Alex knew their bond was a symbol now, a symbol of hope, but also a target for those who feared change. He made a promise to himself. No matter what came, he would stand strong. For Lyra, for their people, for a future where different worlds could live as one. And as the stars shone above, Alex felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Because sometimes, all it takes is one human's resolve to change the course of history. The stars shone cold and distant as the small human ship moved closer to the dark planet below. Inside the ship, Sergeant Mark Harris sat quietly, his hand steady on the controls. Around him, the cold metal walls hummed softly, but he felt no fear. He was alone, sent to face the alien queen of the Excelnary Hive by himself. Far above him, deep in her throne room, the alien queen watched the ship's approach on a wide glowing screen. She was tall and fierce, with shimmering blue skin and eyes that burned like fire. Her sharp voice filled the room as she spoke to her advisors. "A single human soldier. They must be mad. This one is nothing but an insect in my world. I will crush him like all the others." The queen's advisors bowed but whispered nervously. The humans were strange and unpredictable. Still, the queen's pride was great. She had never been defeated and had no fear of one human soldier. She smiled cruelly, imagining how easy it would be to destroy him. Outside the ship, the air was thick and strange. The planet was unlike anything Sergeant Harris had seen. Giant purple plants swayed in the cold wind, and strange glowing creatures moved in the shadows. But Harris did not hesitate. He stepped out of his ship, his boots touching the alien soil firmly. He looked up to the dark towers rising above him, the home of the alien queen. The towers were tall and sharp, like giant claws reaching for the sky. The air smelled strange, but Harris felt calm. He carried no weapons. His mission was not to fight, but to speak. Deep inside the throne room, the queen watched him. She saw the human walk slowly and boldly toward her. "Foolish human," she whispered, her voice filled with disgust. "Does he think he can walk into my home without fear?" When Sergeant Harris reached the great doors, they opened silently. He stepped inside, the light shifting from the dark stone to bright glowing crystals. The queen sat on her throne, surrounded by her guards and glowing servants. "Human," she said, her voice cold and sharp, "why do you come here alone? Do you think your small strength can match the power of the Excelnary?" Harris stood tall and met her fiery gaze. "I come in peace," he said calmly, "but I will not be afraid. I want to understand you and your people. I believe we can find a way to stop the fighting." The queen laughed, a sound like breaking ice. "Peace? You are a weak creature to speak of peace. We have fought many battles and crushed many enemies. You will be no different." But Harris did not move or look away. His calm and quiet confidence shocked the queen. No human before had ever faced her without trembling or begging for mercy. For a moment, the great alien queen was silent. Her eyes narrowed, and her lips curled in thought. This human was different, stronger in spirit than she expected. The war was far from over, but the arrival of this one soldier marked the start of something new, something the queen had not prepared for. Mark Jensen was not a hero. He was an engineer working on a small rocky planet far from Earth. His job was to check machines that helped the mining team. The planet was quiet, cold, and dusty. No one expected anything strange to happen. But today, something did. While walking near a deep canyon, Mark heard a soft, weak sound. It was a cry. Someone was in trouble. He looked around but saw nothing at first. Then, near a small rock, he saw a woman. But she was not like any woman Mark had ever seen. Her skin was pale blue with shiny marks that glowed softly. Her eyes were big and bright green. She looked hurt. Blood stained her clothes. Mark's heart beat fast. He had never met an alien before, but he knew he had to help. "Are you okay?" Mark asked, his voice shaking a little. The woman didn't answer. She was too weak. Mark carefully lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than she looked, but still fragile. As he walked back toward the base camp, he felt the weight of responsibility. What should he do now? Was it safe to bring her back? At the camp, Mark's team stared in shock when they saw the alien woman. The commander was angry. "You broke protocol," he said. "We don't touch aliens. We report them to the higher command." But Mark shook his head. "She needs help. She's hurt bad. We can't just leave her." The woman's breathing was slow and weak. Mark sat beside her and gently cleaned her wounds. Slowly, she opened her eyes. They were full of pain, but also a strange kindness. She looked at Mark and whispered a word that sounded like Lyra. Mark smiled softly. "I'm Mark," he said. "You're safe now." Lyra tried to speak more, but her voice was weak. Mark realized she didn't speak their language well. She was lost and scared. But something about her was familiar, a feeling of trust. Days passed, and Lyra stayed in the camp. She was quiet but watched everything carefully. Mark visited her often. Sometimes she touched his hand lightly, as if saying thank you. Mark began to feel a connection he couldn't explain. One night, while Mark was fixing a machine, he heard a loud noise outside. The sky lit up with strange ships. Mark's heart pounded. They found her, he thought. The alien woman was in danger. But Mark was ready. He didn't know much about fighting or alien wars, but he knew one thing. He would protect Lyra, no matter what. And in that moment, Mark had no idea his life was about to change forever. The glowing path led Sergeant Mark Harris into a chamber unlike any he had seen. The walls were smooth and covered with shifting patterns of light, colors moving like waves across their surface. The air felt heavier here, filled with a strange energy that pressed against his mind. The alien queen appeared beside him, her eyes sharp and calculating. "This trial will test your mind, human. It will try to break your will by probing your thoughts. Many have failed here because they could not protect their minds." Harris nodded, trying to steady his breathing. He felt no fear, only curiosity. He had faced many dangers, but this was new. Suddenly, the room's light dimmed. Strange shapes appeared, twisting and turning, forming images that seemed to reach out for him. Harris realized these were memories, his memories, playing before him like a hologram. The first image was of his family, laughing around a dinner table. Happiness. Then came the harder memories, loss, pain, and fear. The image of his best friend who died in battle, the quiet nights when loneliness was his only company. The alien queen's voice echoed, cold and unyielding. "Your memories make you weak. Why do you hold on to pain? Let it go, and your mind will be free." Harris clenched his jaw. He understood what she meant, but he also knew that those memories made him who he was. "No," he said quietly. "I carry those memories because they give me strength. They remind me why I fight." The images shifted again, now showing doubts and fears, failures he had faced, moments when he almost gave up. The queen's mental challenge was clear: break his spirit by showing him his weaknesses. But Harris focused on the present. He closed his eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. He reminded himself that he was more than his fears and failures. When he opened his eyes, the images began to fade. The chamber grew bright once more, and the queen looked surprised. "You are stronger than most," she admitted. "Your mind holds pain and fear, yet it remains unbroken. That is unusual." Harris wiped sweat from his brow. "Strength is not the absence of pain. It is the choice to keep moving forward despite it." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled, a small, genuine smile. "You surprise me, human. Perhaps there is more to your species than I believed." Before Harris could respond, the chamber shifted again. The queen stepped back and gestured toward a heavy door that opened silently. "Your next trial awaits," she said. "It will test your honor, something I hear humans claim to value greatly. Let us see if your actions match your words." Harris squared his shoulders and stepped forward. Each trial brought new challenges, but he faced them all with the same determination and respect. Outside, the queen's advisors whispered among themselves, exchanging glances filled with doubt and curiosity. This human soldier was not like any enemy they had known before.